Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, HOA gave me a ridiculous fine. Who would have thought that HOAs even harass you when you have never joined their stupid scheme in the first place? I'm just posting here because I need to vent and because I sort of showed the HOA who is boss. This happened last Friday. I got home from work and on my door was an envelope that had written on it, "Urgent Notice." I thought it was a scam letter at first. When I opened it up, it was a formally typed letter stating that between the hours of 7 PM to 10 AM, I'm not permitted to have my dog outside, and also stated that it is a nuisance and must stop barking immediately. She is an 8-pound chihuahua and hardly barks. Also, I had to pay a very hefty fine of $25 since it was my first notice. I laughed it off and called the number that was on the letter. It in fact was the president of the HOA, and she asked for my address, and I just told her it was about the letter of a barking dog. Oh yes, if I wanted to have an appeal, I would have to go to the association meeting on Saturday. I told her I was not in any HOA and I don't appreciate letters at my door. She suggested I go to the meeting. I had nothing better to do Saturday, so I went ahead and attended. The amount of people being charged $25 to $150 for the dumbest things just amazed me. From not having their lawns etched to specifications to how bright or dim some porch lights were. Some of the people paid and others tried to plead their case, but the president was such a snobby bitch to everyone. It was finally my turn and I straight up told her I was not going to pay any fines and I was not a part of the association. She then asked how long have I been at my address and I just blurted out October. She then demanded I pay $750 for the months I have not paid my fees, but I just walked out right then and there. Monday, I contacted my attorney to make sure I did not move into an HOA because he looked over all the paperwork. He confirmed that I was not in an HOA and if I wanted I could nip it in the bud or let it continue and sue her for harassment. I told him I did not want to be bothered anymore and if he could just take care of it, that would be amazing. Turns out, the president lives on the opposite side of the street from my house. The cars that pass are way louder than my dog. Hopefully, we won't be bothered anymore, but we now leave our dog to enjoy the backyard a little longer at night. Edit for context, we only let her out at about 5 PM when I get home from work to maybe 6 or 7, and in that time all she does is lounge on our patio furniture. We live in a rural suburban area, so she will bark at raccoons or other animals that get in the yard, which rarely happens. Other than that though, she is roaming inside of the house. My home is at the center of my 2-acre plot of land and the president's home is roughly 60 yards away, including the busy street that separates the development from my home and others like mine. Living in a partial rural area, my neighbors have chickens, goats and large dogs roaming their properties. They make a hell of a lot more noise than my dog. For those saying there are laws, yeah, these people don't care and will pass their boundaries until someone puts their foot down. I talked to my attorney and he said she tried to make a fuss when he told her to cease any more actions towards myself or my home, or she will be receiving a lawsuit and that shut her up pretty quick. And yeah, ripe stars, that is definitely a reoccurring pattern that I see with these HOAs. Once you threaten legal action or get a lawyer involved or something, a lot of these HOA bullies will suddenly quickly stick their tail between their legs and run away. Don't be afraid to stand up against bullies. Anyway, if you have watched until here and enjoy the HOA stories, then I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, My neighbor thinks she can walk into my house and help herself to my dinner or anything else she wants. This story happened many years ago. While we were in the military, we moved frequently, and at one base in particular, we lived in condo-style houses, line of homes that have 1 or 2 walls that are connected to each other. I mention the type of house because it shows how close we were to our neighbors. We did have our own driveways, but they were for single cars and were right next to our neighbors. This base was in a warm location where we should have had air conditioning, but we didn't. We were enlisted and lived in older houses, and only newer enlisted or officer housing had AC. The reason I mentioned this is because I would leave my front door open and have just the screen door closed so we could get crosswind to cool the house. This should not have been a big deal, right? Wrong. Our neighbor that was connected to our left liked to come over and borrow things. Our neighbor, or choosing beggar, will be referred to as CB, moving forward would come over, and at the beginning she would knock and she would ask for things such as a cup of sugar or milk. Then as time progressed, CB would knock and just walk in, and at this point she still asked for stuff. To be honest, this did not really bother me too bad because it was not too frequent, and then all of a sudden it changed and CB stopped knocking altogether and began just walking. I did say something, keeping it light in hopes that it would work. I knew we were going to be neighbors for a while and it could be bad to have a bad relationship between neighbors, and back then I had a lot of anxiety about having negative interactions with people, and then CB became pregnant and her entitlement all of a sudden knew no bounds. CB would not only walk into my house, she would go into my fridge or freezer and grab whatever she wanted. This one time I was making dinner and she walked over, smelled it, grabbed a plate and served herself. I said something to the effect of, "I'm making that for my husband," and CB responded that she is only taking a little and there will be plenty for him. That was it. I was mad. After that I tried locking my screen door, but the cheap lock would not hold. CB was able to pull the door open and eventually snap the lock off. I finally said screw it and started shutting my actual door, which sucked because it was hot and I had no AC, but it was better than dealing with her every day. I thought that would work, but she started going through our back door and coming through our screen door. Oh, did I mention her husband was like 3 ranks higher than mine? And she was seriously taking from us when they could afford way more. Anyway, this went on while CB was pregnant. Finally, after CB had her baby, CB started asking for even more. She wanted my husband to come kill bugs when her husband was not home, and she asked me to do things she could easily do for herself, like go to the grocery store. The final straw was she woke me up at 2 AM saying she is cold and was mumbling. I seriously thought something was wrong with her baby. I got up, woke my husband up, let him know and ran over to her house, and I do mean ran. I ran into her house, door was unlocked and CB was laying on the couch. She was not feeling good. She wanted me to get her a blanket from her upstairs closet. I finally lost my mind and told her I thought something was wrong with her baby. I was over it. I told her, "CB, you are not to walk into our house without permission anymore, and you are not to ask my husband for anything anymore. The only way it is ever okay to call me in the middle of the night ever again is because you need 911. CB just looked at me and said something about, "Since I am here, can't I get the blanket?" and that I'm being a horrible neighbor. I walked out of the house, went home and went to bed. Moving forward, CB scowled at me every time she saw me and pointed at me and talked about me to her husband and other neighbors who told me later. CB's husband got orders and they finally moved. I was so happy because she made it uncomfortable being at my own home till she did. The next one is titled, "Mow My Lawn or Give Me Money." This is more my dad's story than mine, however, he does not have read it. My dad was mowing our lawn when he spotted an elderly neighbor, EN, that he knows who is out for a walk. They had a bit of a chat and before he left, EN made a joking comment of, "Can you do my lawn when you're done here?" Now, my dad gets along well with EN and knows that he does not have much of a lawn to speak of, more like a strip of grass by the sidewalk, and that he struggles to mow it. So, to be nice, my dad brings his lawnmower to EN's house and mows his lawn for him. En is extremely grateful, offers my dad some money, which he turns down, and then offers him a glass of lemonade that they share from a responsible social distance. That is where the story should have ended, just a cute story about neighbors being nice. But En lives next to a choosing beggar, CB. CB is not elderly, disabled, or in any other way incapable of mowing her own lawn, she just does not like doing it. She saw my dad mowing En's lawn and saw him turning down money, and she decided she was entitled to the same thing. She stormed outside and impatiently huffed while Dad and En drank lemonade and chatted. When my dad started packing up his lawnmower and getting ready to go, she stomped over and whined, "What about me?" Dad looks at her in confusion and asks what she means. She responds with, "Aren't you going to mow my lawn too?" My dad declines since A, she is able to mow her own lawn, and B, she has a big lawn, and C, he has other things that he needs to do. When Dad turns down the CB, she has the audacity to say, "Well, you should at least give me $15 so I can pay one of the local kids to mow the lawn if you won't do it yourself." My dad did not even bother arguing with her, he just packed up and left with her throwing a tantrum as he went. He and En are still good friends. Dad will show up when he sees En's patch of grass getting a bit long and mow it for him, and En drops off jars of jams and chutneys that he makes himself. CB huffs every time she sees Dad and still makes comments about how he should be mowing her lawn too. And the next one is entitled Neighbors Want a Cat. Our cat, he has different opinions. Before I begin, I should explain for transparency, I live in the UK in the suburbs of a medium-sized city. We have a large garden and are away from the main road. Our cats free roam, and all the cats we have had have done so without issue. They rarely leave the boundaries of our home and garden, and even then only go into our nice neighbor's garden. Anyway, on to the story. This story is from about 3 years ago. However, I still remember most of it because the neighbors are still there, and frankly, you try and steal my cat? I ain't forgetting. So, a bit of a backstory. My family owned 2 cats, Ariel and Vincent. Ariel is pretty much a princess, dainty, and demands to be treated like royalty, but she stays in the house most of the time, except sometimes she wanders around the garden. Vincent, however, is a complete git. He is willing to be pet when it suits him, or serves to benefit him, mostly to getting food, and for a time was a wanderer, but not so much now. In around 2016, Vincent went off on a wander. Every so often he would be gone for a couple of days. Fair enough, he is a cat in his prime, he wants to investigate, but then he goes missing for a longer length of time, maybe a week or so. It is pertinent to mention Vincent had a black collar and a sturdy one as well. He was not getting it off on his own. One day though, he comes home with a purple collar on. I think you can tell from here, we did not put it on, someone had been taking him in. So, Dad, I am a live-at-home student, put a new collar on him with a note attached in a little vial giving his name and Vincent's, our address and phone numbers. Vincent went back on the prowl and a few days later returns with another purple collar. So, Dad repeats the process just in case the vial fell off, giving whoever was claiming Vincent a chance to say hi. I think you can guess what happens. So, Dad has a philosophy, if his cat wants to live somewhere it deems better, he will let the cat do that, but not without a fight, especially if the new owners are being a-holes about it. So what else are we to do but pamper that little furball? We give him treats, healthy as well as normal food, allowed him upstairs, the forbidden zone, and generally allowed concessions to the norm. Unfortunately, he gets bored of his lifestyle and buggers off again for 3 months. We occasionally see him as he is evidently being let out and he sees us as a second home, but what is horrible is to see that he is losing weight, I assume because he's being given milk, forcing him to vomit because he is lactose intolerant, and his fur is falling out because he has seriously bad fleas. He is also acting up, begging for food constantly and acting like a bigger douchebag than before. Now, we do what we can, but because Vincent wants to spend as much time as possible with the neighbors, we really cannot do much. If we went to get the cat box out to get him to the vet, he would scarp her, until one day after 3 months we get a call from our vet, who are they worried to see Vincent in the state he is, and that Dad would never let this happen. It turns out that this new owner did not want to deal with him anymore, so they just so happened to say they found him and scarpered after fussing him, and Vincent obviously knowing who they were, Dad being a mature adult paid for the vet bills, really not much, just flea treatment and a checkup. About 2 days later they knocked on our door to explain themselves. Trust me, I'm as surprised as you are. Turns out the neighbors love cats, and when they found Vincent they had to have him. But they did not want to pay any vet bills or treatments, so what they did after he started showing signs of neglect was to buy a new kitten and bung Vincent back on that to pay the vet bills, but they love Vincent and he loves them, apparently. So seemingly through divine intervention, Mr. Vincent walks down our street and Dad notices and says hello to him. The neighbors are going, "Kitty, kitty, kitty," and generally trying to get Vincent's love, but then Vincent immediately ignores them, runs straight through their legs and comes inside our home. 3 years on, Vincent is very nearly a house cat and is a professional sleeper, napper and snoozer, and apart from being a douche, is fine. He has never gone back to the neighbors. He obviously realizes they were killing him and knew he was not wanted after they got the kitten. And yeah, Ripe Stars, as once again being a cat owner myself, I can definitely say that I feel really bad for Vincent and any cat that these neighbors will ever have in their life. Obviously, they are not fit to have any sort of pets. So Ripe Stars, as promised, this is Disney, our new family member. She is, I believe, a Scottish fold, but without the folded ears, so Scottish fold, short hair. And we sort of adopted her, basically, that's what you can call it, from previous owner, because the previous owner, I guess, did not have much time or something. And she, I believe she is 4 months old. She's so cute. Very, very cute. And yeah, please let me know what you think, if I should. I think it's very nice to like put a few videos of the cat maybe at the end of each video. That's like some nice ending, some nice bloopers. So please let me know what you think about that. And yeah, she's the new member of the Ripe Star community. So cute. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching the video. I will let the Patreon member picture come through, Patreon supporters, and yeah, see you in the next video. And Ripe Stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional Ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.